Cyberpunk Edgerunners exploded onto the anime scene late last year, delivering one of the most heartfelt stories and interesting worlds to come up anime in a while. The unique character design, neon colours, fluid animation, cool soundtrack, just the whole style of the show in general was awesome. It was also the one anime I could convince most of my non-weeb friends into watching by saying, no, it's not anime rare, it's based on Cyberpunk, which now I think that probably wasn't the best selling point either. It also helped that the ending was being talked about literally everywhere on the internet, which is crazy because anime as a genre doesn't really have the best track record with endings. Yet Cyberpunk Edgerunners cemented itself as having an almost perfect ending that even the strongest of gamers could not help but shed a tear. Episode 10, My Moon, My Man. But hey, you can't talk about an ending without a build-up, so let's rewind a bit. From the first seconds it's established, what is valued above all in Night City, the person with the best tech is the person who survives. This creates a system where your status is directly linked to whether or not you can afford the latest upgrade. To translate, the man with the iPhone will be at the top, while the man with the Pixel will be at the bottom. Hashtag too real. Edgerunners explores this through David. David and his mom are on the edge of poverty, struggling to afford basic necessities while also living in one of the poorest parts of Night City. David's mom, however, has a dream. A future where David rises up the social hierarchy, the honest way. Instead of selling weed outside the local servo, he's going to get an education and work at one of the biggest megacorps, Arasaka. Unfortunately, this dream is shown to be just that, a dream. Despite attending one of the most prestigious schools, he's unable to afford the latest patches and equipment. Despite having no control over his wealth, he's alienated by his classmates not being able to afford the latest AirPods. Despite his mother working incredibly hard to get him there, she's killed by the city before she can see David succeed. All this hopelessness and feelings of being trapped lead to David's inevitable breaking point. It's when you lose everything, you're left with two options. Accept it, or fight back. Rebellion and the theme of sticking it to capitalism man is a major part of the first half of Edgerunners, as David and his mom are an example of two people who tried to climb the social hierarchy the right way, only to be shut down by a gang war that was instigated by corporate corruption. However, when a grief-struck David implants a piece of military-grade tech into his spine, he comes across a netrunner called Lucy, who acts as his gateway into the world of edgerunning. Compared to the pretty fucked up first episode, the first half of Edgerunners has a pretty light-hearted tone. I mean, this is mainly because of the fact we're seeing everything through David's naivety, allowing us to experience his excitement and eagerness to learn from Main's crew, who looks up to these cool gangsters who are breaking free from the system. If you haven't noticed, Edgerunners has a pretty straightforward message, capitalism bad, but it just nails the delivery. The whole vibe of Night City really gets across the grittiness and moral laxity of David's part of town. What I mean by that is there's dudes jack you off on the side of the street and nobody blinks an eye, which is pretty progressive if you ask me. The stylistic gore-filled action makes you feel how hectic and out of control the city is. The soundtrack really backs this vibe up too, which I assume we have that CD Projekt Red money to thank for that, especially a song in particular, but you already know what I'm referring to. Most importantly though, Cyberpunk nails the constant tragedy present in Night City, especially in David and Lucy's love story, which is a major part of David's drive throughout the show. It's mentioned by other characters and shown to us that David is a selfless person, to a self-destructive extent. Prior to the car crash he lived for his mom's dream, and after meeting Lucy, he started living for her dream. Obviously this isn't a healthy mindset, but it's made clear that's just who David is. He's the guy who jumps into the fire to rescue someone, hence the fireman's jacket. I know you might have missed it. You can also tell Lucy recognizes this, and is reluctant to get close to David. She understands what this path really means for him, as an edgerunner's life is always a short one. It's here the show starts to set up, that Night City remembers how one dies, rather than how they live. Anyway, episode 6 is the real turning point. The pedestals that David put Main and the other mercenaries on abruptly crumble. During the episode, the crew are attempting to extract data from the top Arasaka board members, but shit starts to go sideways when Main starts tweaking out and punches Kiwi. Episode 6 is pretty much Main's episode, as till then he's been this macho, fearless dude. But all this peels away along with his sanity. Main slowly falls into cyberpsychosis. There's been little sprinkles of cyberpsychosis up until now, but this is the first time we see it happen to someone we know. His past and present start colliding. Main attempts to ground himself, but is unable to outrun the delusions that slowly consume him, until the charismatic leader we all love so much is completely broken. It's time to stop running.
This is it. It's the end of the line for me. But not for you. Fast is what you do best, ain't it? Just keep running.
And damn, this tragedy is just delivered in one of the most aesthetically beautiful sequences ever. It's also here we see the inevitable fate of every edgerunner, David, with his desire for glory and legacy pushing him too far. The feelings of freedom and rebellion set up until now reveal themselves to be just an illusion. No matter how hard these characters try to escape their situations, they're still trapped by the megacorps. Throw in the fact that David was unable to save another parental figure, and you've got a pretty fucked up main character. The next episodes take place a while after the incident with Main. David has taken it upon himself to continue mainstream, both conceptually and physically, now looking like he's 2 clicks away from opening up a David Lives Instagram account. Anyway, besides the sick gains, he now operates as the leader of Maine's crew. However, we start seeing the signs we saw in Maine in David now. This lifestyle is starting to take its toll on David. He's beginning to enter cyberpsychosis.
What? Someone headed straight for you.
Handled it.
You did? Cool, good.
Leaving, on my way.
It's mentioned throughout the show that David has a special tolerance for implants. After the time skip, you see David's really adopted this idea. Doesn't seem like an ego thing to me, more like out of desperation after he failed to protect the 2 people he held dearest. Now turning into a crumb junkie from the idea that I can handle it, or it's not going to happen to me. I'm different. Of course, it does though. Lucy, on the other hand, has become a recluse after discovering Arasaka's plans for David, making it her mission to censor all evidence of this information like she's working for China. Except instead of doing it for social credit, she's doing it out of love for David. It's also here that the show starts actually fleshing out some of the other members of the crew, because until now the level of character development has been long hands and mustache. Though Rebecca actually turns into a pretty likable character, giving us a glimpse of why she acts the way she does. And I think most people would agree in saying they did her a bit dirty at the end of the show. And I'm pretty sure McCree has some voice lines too.
Get her done.
But now the crew must embark on their final mission. Assuming you've seen it, I'm going to do a bad summary. David's at his breaking point. The crew attempt a Mad Max heist, succeed, but find out this was all set up by Gus Frings and Kiwi, who work with Arasaka to get David to put on the Funko Pop suit. Oh, and Lucy's been kidnapped. So here David is left with the same choice he had in episode 1. He fights back. If you haven't realized yet from all the foreshadowing, and the fact that there is another episode titled Rehab, David is going to die. He and all his friends know it now. His past is spicing with his present, just like it did for Maine, as he slays countless Meditech goons. The only thing allowing him to hang on to even the slightest bit of sanity is his dream of keeping Lucy safe. David is not going to lose anyone else, except for Rebecca, but that's besides the point. He's made up his mind. He will save Lucy. When he ascends the tower to where she's being kept though, he's met with Adam Smasher. I remember when I first watched Edgerunners, around now is when it started to set in that this is really going to be it for David. Of course, all the foreshadowing had already prepared me for the fact that we're not getting a happy ending. I didn't notice how emotionally attached I'd gotten to these characters. When David and Lucy were saying their final pieces to each other in the moonlight, a feeling that I can only describe as emptiness started to set in. I at least expected one last epic showdown, but it never came. All we got was David trying to get his last words into his friends, while he gets his ass handed to him. Looking back on it now, I like that choice a lot. It shows that David really only wanted to save Lucy. It's the only thing he cared about, not being the legend who killed Adam Smasher. So in his last moments when he sees Lucy escape, David is able to smile up at Adam Smasher, sane as he was in episode 1, knowing that he achieved his dream of keeping Lucy safe.
You know, you could prove an interesting construct.
Whatever, Choom. Like I give a shit.
Oh, well.
I've seen the take going around that this ending was just sad for the sake of being sad, but I honestly couldn't disagree more. It's shown over and over again that Night City just breeds tragedy, and David and Lucy were just 2 more victims. Bro, the show even opens with someone going cyber psycho. Like, I can sit here all day and tell you why it makes sense, but all that logic disappears once the show cuts to Lucy on the moon, finally having achieved her dream. The moon's desolate, with people hopping around excited to start their new lives together, while Lucy wanders off on her own, coming across the same spot she visited with David back when they first met. A brief feeling of nostalgia begins to disappear, knowing that the moon is meaningless without David. Lucy then painfully smiles up with a face of acceptance, only for me to feel so incredibly hollow in my room, knowing that David isn't there to experience it with her, yet understanding she'll have to carry on for him. Man, that's a bittersweet ending.
So what you want?